Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, I'm going to be doing a driving comparison between the all-new Toyota 86 and the Honda Civic Si. Before we get into the video though, a huge shout out and thank you to the Mercedes-Benz of Farmington, Utah for giving me some time with this Si that they took as a trade-in. It is available for sale. I'm going to include a link to their inventory in the description down below if you want to check it out. They are a one-price store, so they're going to make your buying experience super easy and straightforward. And then on a side note, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And I already posted a walk-around comparison with both these cars, so if you want to see all the features compared with the cars, just go look at that walk-around comparison. And with that being said, let's get into the driving. Let's talk about visibility before we set off. Here's your visibility of the hood. Both the mirrors do blind spot monitoring. Then throughout the rest of the rear. And, well, brake down, first gear, let's set off. So, setting off here in the Civic Si, we're gonna focus here on the Civic Si for now. And first off, what you guys will probably notice is that it's kind of like an interesting thing to get used to with the manual transmission with the revs and everything. It revs up relatively quickly. The shifter's really hot. Like, this shifter gets really hot in the sun, I will say that. But when it's cool, it's a cool shifter, that's for sure. That was a really bad joke. But anyways, clutch is super light, and there's not a lot of feel with the clutch itself. It's hard for me to tell exactly where the grab point is with the Civic Si, so that is kind of interesting. Now I'm actually going to pop it into sport mode. Is this person going to turn or not? My goodness. Whoo! Takes a second to get used to. Yeah, that clutch is the weirdest part. Definitely the weirdest part. Now this is a sedan, 4 doors, and it, you know, going around those corners, it handles pretty well. It feels pretty solid. I'm gonna drop down in gear. It's pretty easy to, is this, I was like, that Rev Match felt way too good for this to be not automatic. I'll double check the next time I downshift. It's not crazy quick by any means, but it definitely has like a good feel to it. So let's see if this is auto Rev Match. Oh, it is auto Rev Match. I thought I was such a good driver for a second there. Nope, I'm not a good driver. It's got auto Rev Match, which is nice. Definitely, you know, helps out, especially daily driving and everything. It makes a car so much more daily drivable. Now I'm interested to see how the turning radius feels. And it's cool to see the boost too with the Civic Si. See exactly what's happening. Don't worry, that was my tripod if you guys are wondering, the knocking sound. Now going over this little cover, suspension's really compliant. Definitely, I mean, you know, being a bigger car, definitely feels nice and luxurious. Now we're gonna get our full-blown acceleration here. Oh, it's not like crazy quick, but it's pretty dang good. And you can actually like shift pretty fast with this. Like you guys saw, you can just pretty much just go right up. And because people always talk about what is it, rev hang or something like that with the, I think it's rev hang with the Civics. And I mean, I don't know, maybe, but I can tell you, I can, you know, the Rev Match downshift function does everything for me. And when I'm on the upshift, I can just instantly, I can just go through and just like put my foot down. So I don't think you can flat foot shift it. I am having to pull my foot off the pedal, so I do need to mention that. But as long as you just pull your foot off the gas pedal for a second, shift, and then back on it, you guys saw it's perfectly smooth. So yeah, I guess we'll quickly sum things up here with the Civic Si from a driving experience perspective. First off, it puts down the power surprisingly well. That is for sure. It really does put down the power surprisingly well. And on top of that, you know, like I said earlier, showing you guys the visibility. Visibility is great here with the Civic Si, just like any other Civic. I love this manual transmission. Like, the notches feel amazing. Still, for the price point, definitely the best manual you can get on the market. And yeah, I guess the only thing is it's not like super quick. So like, it doesn't like push you back in your seat and everything. Like all those memes you see about like Honda Civic drivers flooring it and then their passengers being bored. Like, it's kind of true, but it's a really good amount of power where you can have fun without breaking the law. And like, it just feels good, because like the shifter feel, the clutch feel is good. It's just that it's not like, it's a weird like catch point. You don't really feel a lot happening with the clutch. But I will say, like, the whole actuation with just the whole pushing the clutch, putting it into gear, all that kind of stuff feels good here with the Civic Si. And so I think it's a really good performance car. It really is. And with the new Civic platform, it definitely has more of like a luxury feel compared to what the Civic used to have. This is still sporty. This still handles amazingly well, just like the previous generation Civic. But oh, that's so fun. But on top of that, great handling. It's also very comfortable. Like, this is the most daily drivable Civic Si ever made. And yeah, I love the shifter is the highlight with the Civic Si, that's for sure. Let's talk about visibility here at the 86 before we set off. Here's your visibility over the hood. Both of the mirrors, they do have blind spot monitoring. Then throughout the rest of the rear. So visibility definitely not as good as the Civic, throughout the rear at least. And, well, regular breakdown. First gear, let's set off. Setting off here in the 86. And this is such a different experience, just like getting in. So first off, I will say it's easier to tell where the catch point is with the clutch, but it's still not great. So both the cars definitely leave a little bit to be desired from that perspective. I will say though, like the shifter in this, not nearly as good as the Civic Si. This shifter just doesn't feel quite as precise. Now I'm actually gonna pop this into the track mode. Now I don't think, yeah, so no, this doesn't have auto rev match, just checking. So neither of the, or sorry, the Civic has auto rev match, but this one doesn't. So there's a difference right there. Definitely a different feel because you know, naturally aspirated, but it's still a flat 4-cylinder. So like with the Civic being turbocharged, you get a little bit of turbo lag and then it like starts to pick up a bit. This on the other hand, it just builds a lot of its power higher up in the rev range, but they have worked this engine where there's more torque low down, rather, is what I meant. And so it does feel pretty good. Seat comfort, I would say the Civic seats are actually a little bit more comfortable. I like the look of these seats more, but the Civic seats are just a little bit cozier. But the bolstering on both of them is great. Like they both hold you in place really well. I do like the overall like look of the gauge cluster in this cabin more, but I like the Civic cabin overall a little bit more. I feel like it looks a little bit more upscale, if that makes sense, compared to this. But this has like some nice materials like the Alcantara and everything. The gauge cluster, like I said, is definitely like a huge winning point. I feel like this car is easier to stall than the Civic. I will say that. The Civic, really hard to stall. This one, I feel like you could stall it more easily. Can definitely feel the fact that this is a smaller car, more lightweight. The power delivery is a lot different. So the Civic, you kind of like a little bit turbo lag and then you hit, and then it just kind of like is smooth up with the acceleration. This on the other hand has a punch to it that the Civic doesn't have. That I wouldn't expect that because this has less torque. This is definitely noisier too. Like you hear more engine noise, you hear more of everything, like not as much cabin insulation. It's definitely more, you know, on the sports car side of things, it's definitely more focused compared to the Civic, that is for sure. Now, even though this doesn't have auto rev match, this being a flat 4-cylinder, it's easier to rev match downshift than the inline 4-cylinder that the Civic Si has. So that pretty much needs, well, I didn't say needs, but that greatly benefits from auto rev match. This, on the other hand, it's cool that it has it, but like it's not a necessity. Now we're gonna go over the same little cover. Definitely stiffer suspension too. So you can tell the focus with both of these cars. Like the Civic ultimately is a commuter car that has been turned into a sporty car, whereas this, you can tell from the ground up, had sports car in mind. Hit the red line a little bit by accident. This definitely has longer gearing. Like this takes a lot longer to get all the way up to red line compared to the Civic. So although I like the punch of this and I like the handling dynamics, I like shifting gears in the Civic a lot more. The shifter feels better, and I actually get to use it more often in the Civic Si compared to this. This, you still do get to utilize the transmission, just not as much at lower speeds. So like the Civic, I feel like I can have fun with that car at low speeds. This, I feel like I do have to push it a little bit more to get a little bit more out of it. Now I know this driving route's a little bit different than what we did with the Civic. That's because, well, I'm going home because I had this car for the week. But yeah, now I just want to fully get into summing things up here with this video, and I figured you guys would have more fun watching driving rather than me just my face talking. And again, shout out to the Mercedes-Benz of Farmington for making this video possible. You guys are awesome. So yeah, exterior wise, I think that they both look cool. This definitely looks better though. Like the Civic's a commuter car that's been turned into a sporty looking car, right? This sports car from the ground up. Okay, now from an interior perspective, it's mixed. I do like the gauge cluster with this a little bit more, but I like the overall and like dash of the Civic more. I like this look of these seats more, but I like the comfort of the Civic seats more. So again, mixed. And then from a performance perspective, that's where things are really tough. Now I'm at pretty high elevation, so like the Civic does have less power loss compared to this. So I'm sure that this would feel even punchier at lower elevation compared to the Civic at lower elevation, right? Because turbochargers are king up here. So this is definitely at a disadvantage with where I'm located because I'm at like 4,500 feet elevation. That being said, Civic wins from a transmission perspective in terms of the feel of the shifter and everything. This has a better clutch in terms of the catch point. Civic clutch is a little bit lighter though, which I do kind of like for daily driving, right? The steering feels a little bit better on this than the Civic. They're pretty close though. And then from acceleration perspective, it's mixed. This feels like punchier and more dramatic when you accelerate compared to the Civic, but the gearing in the Civic's so much better than the gearing in this. The gearing in this is just a little bit too long. And since the gearing is a little bit too long, it kind of gets in the way of the driving experience. And so like, I feel like I can enjoy that amazing shift in the Civic more. But I guess it's good because this transmission, it's not bad, but it's not nearly as, I don't know, it's not as well, it's not as well tuned, I guess, as the Civic's transmission. So which one do you choose? I mean, it depends. This is definitely more on the weekend car side of things, whereas the Civic's definitely more on the daily driver side of things, hence 2-door versus 4-door. But, you know, I guess everything being taken into consideration, the Civic does look like a pretty good value when you look at the MSRPs, because this has a higher MSRP and it's less practical. But, I mean, yeah, it really just depends on what you're looking for. I guess if you're all in on the sports driving, this is going to give you a sportier driving experience. But if you want a really good daily driver that's also really fun, the Civic Si is going to give that to you. And I guess we will finish things off with I keep hitting red line by accident. Don't worry, it's a press car, it's fine. Only Toyota can get mad at me, you guys can't. But yeah, that'll sum things up. I'll see ya.